you so much for spending time with us. As you know, what we're really working on is letting people here in the world the type of work that's being done to facilitate opportunity for other kids and for all children and young adults, and create conditions in which they can learn to flourish and have opportunities. And the two of you have been working in this world, in the higher ed world, for a while. And I just want to hear your story. So I would love it if you could start with kind of introducing yourself and then talk a little bit about your programming. And then I'm going to start to ask you some questions, and we'll just kind of go with that for around 20, 25 minutes, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. I'll start off. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Dennehy. I'm the Executive Director of College Access and Student Success in the Boston University Wheelock College of Education. Our office oversees a number of programs for students as young as kindergarten in the Boston Public Schools, all the way up to doctoral fellows through our home scholars programs. And so we have programming in the pre-college space. Reggie will introduce himself. He'll talk about one of our programs, Upward Bound and Upward Bound Math Science. We run a Gear Up program that works with East Boston High and Umana. We have a literacy program that we partner with student employment on that's funded through America Reads, called BUILD, the Boston University for Initiative on Literacy Development, and it works with 10 elementary schools in Boston. We have a number of undergraduate programs at Boston University. We're a partner with two POSSE cities, Atlanta and the San Francisco Bay Area. We've taken on QuestBridge this year as a new partner working with admissions. We have two Boston-facing scholarship programs, Menino, which is a full tuition merit scholarship, and the BPS Community Scholars, which is a full calculated need for any Boston Public School student who matriculates at Boston University. And we have a number of other small partnership programs with Philly Futures, Chicago Scholars, Hayden Scholars. And in the graduate space, we have our Home Scholars and Home Masters programs, which help support historically underrepresented master's and doctoral fellows. And we partner with the American Association of Colleges of Teacher Education through those programs. And I'll turn it over to Reggie to talk a little bit about two of our pre-college programs and himself.
Thanks, Mike. So like Mike mentioned, I'm affiliated with the Upward Bound and Upward Bound Math Science programs here at Boston University. I serve as director. And so the goals of the program is to help students who live in Boston and Chelsea to go to and be successful in college with the Upward Bound Math Science program, specifically looking at students who should be, going to STEM fields, studying STEM in college, going on to those careers. And so students are starting with our program in 9th to 10th grade. And then we work with them throughout high school, providing after school classes, test prep. And then during the summer, we're a 6-week residential program. Students are, infused into the university to be able to get a sense of what it's like to go to college and be in college, and then taking advantage of the resources, so that they can, really, be in a place where they can learn, develop, exhibit agency and advocacy, and then, learn to be independent with a structure that will support their growth. And so, we're happy to be a part of Boston University and continue to do the work we do.
Okay, what drew you guys into this work? What was the trigger? What did you see at one point when you were beginning to make decisions about the options? We all had options. I'm sure you had many of them. What drew you to this work? So, Reggie, I want to start with you, and then I'll go with Mike.
Sure, yeah, and this is Mike and I and some folks attended a career academic advising symposium today, and talked a little bit about this. And it's interesting just to think about the trajectory that students at BU and high school students are on, and to think about sort of how we came to the space we're in. Mm-hmm. For me, throughout high school, I had opportunity to do a lot of different things. So I grew up in New York. In Brooklyn, and had a chance to do mock trial and moot court, and I was a social science, social studies kind of guy. Enjoyed those subjects. Looked at a TV show called LA Law at that time, and it was a popular show, part of the must-see TV lineup. And, I was like, oh, wow, I want to go into law. I want to make a difference. Things were sort of tied up at the end of the show neatly, and people got to wear suits. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. Um, and then met some folks in my mock trial preparation who were in college, and they were in BU law school, and they talked about BU and all the things related to being a lawyer. And I was like, that's great. Now, so I'm going to go to BU. I'm going to study law, and then I'll be able to do some good things. And then so I applied to BU and some other schools, Penn State being one of them, and some other schools that were on my list, 4 schools total, and then schools that had nothing to do with each other. And
Mhm.
so, thankfully, I heard back from BU. I got accepted, had a very good financial aid package, came to BU. I'm like, okay, I'm going to study law, and then learned that you don't do that in undergrad. You got to go to 4 years of undergrad and then go to law school. And then so I started my undergrad, went through some transition into in college, and then it was really during my first year, I saw that if I want to make a difference, there's a lot of ways to do that, right?
Mhm.
A lot of students were either pre-med or pre-law. Um, and then so, if I wasn't into law, that the law field wasn't going to miss me. But then I started to do some things around the Boston area. Um, there was individuals who worked at BU, staff members, faculty, who talked to me about, hey, maybe you should try this, maybe you should do that. Became infused in the university by doing orientation, dean's host, different things. And then I had an interview for a job, and then that person during the interview was like, hey, you talk about being interested in, and you have fun working with students, with high school students, with pre-college students. You should look into this Upward Bound program. They have a grant. Why don't you go over there and see what they say. So I literally ran to the Upward Bound program after my interview, and wanted to find out about it, work there, and met with the director at that time. Mike was working at Upward Bound at that time as well, and then the rest was really kismet.
Yeah.
In the fall, I became a tutor, tutored there for 2 years. And then every summer after I graduated, I actually not transferred, but I began taking education classes because of those experiences at BU Wheelock.
Mhm.
And then sort of, the rest is history. So for me, it was really being able to connect with the right people at the right time. And then unfortunately, it's chance, right? I tell people it's like I'm the Forrest Gump of circumstances and finding my career path. It's just things that happen for me. And a lot of times there's too much talent, in our schools to leave it to chance. And
Yeah.
so we got to be more intentional. So that's what I wanted to do with my life, is help be intentional and be part of programs that are intentional to help
Mhm.
students go to college.
Yeah. Okay. And you fell in love here, right? You came to BU, fell in love.
And I found love here. My
You found
wife
love.
was
Okay, good.
a undergrad student here,
Yeah.
and now we're married. So.
Okay. 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 And Mike, what brought you to the work?
Yeah, so not too dissimilar from Reggie's story. So I'm a graduate of the Boston Public Schools. I went to Latin Academy, and I came to BU on one of the scholarships that is administered in our office. It's now called the Menino Scholars Program after Mayor Menino, but it was the Boston High School Scholars Program. And I needed a job one summer. I always enjoyed education in high school. And I went to my scholarship advisor, who at the time was Ruth Shane, and I said, hey, do you know anybody who's hiring for the summer? And she said, we just got this Upward Bound grant. We need to hire undergrads to tutor for the summer. You should apply. So I did. I got the job. And my experience with Upward Bound was life-changing. A lot of times we talk about the impact on the participants in the program,
Mhm.
but it helped me realize a couple of things. One is I graduated from an exam school in the city of Boston, Latin Academy. I realized that there were students in the Boston Public Schools who I grew up in Brighton down the street that lived in my neighborhood that didn't have access to the same college preparatory curriculum that I had. And it really creates a need for programs like Upward Bound, right, to make sure students are academically prepared for college. The other thing it helped me see is it helped me find belonging at BU. I had real troubles adjusting from a socioeconomic standpoint to BU. If you come from a low to middle income background, it can really be a challenge. I struggled academically because I didn't feel like I belonged. And Upward Bound and employment in Upward Bound helped me feel connected to the campus in a way that I hadn't felt before. And so then the third thing I would say it did is it helped me realize that this whole possible career path of being an educator, working with a high school age population, which was an age I really enjoy working with, but you can be in a higher ed setting and do it and have that impact outside of the classroom. And, it's not unique to higher ed setting, right? There's a lot of great CBOs that are doing this work as well, but so much interaction with youth can happen outside of the, typical school day. And so all of that was eye-opening to me. And then a deep desire to help students not have to have some of the same struggles I did and have some of the opportunities as well. And so that was a big driver for me and I remember my first summer with Upward Bound, I said to a fellow tutor, we were on a field trip, and I said, one of these days I'm going to direct this program. And so I had the privilege of directing Upward Bound. I was working, as Reggie said, but I directed the program from 1999 to 2014 when Reggie kind of took over as director. So, that's kind of like my career journey and why I do this work. All these transition points are hard, especially if you are first gen or low income. And I think it speaks to the importance of this work and BU's commitment to it as well. All the programs that I just mentioned, BU either supplements our federal funding or funds all of our undergraduate programs and the Holmes program.
So I have two follow-up questions. As you know, I want the system issues that are important to me in this conversation about how we build these communities and why I need the programs. But I want to start a little bit off-centered. Here you have two intellectually engaged, bright, academic successful men who could do a lot of other things. How did you find yourself in a world that's focused on caring for others? It's not the message we give boys. Certainly academically proficient. I know both of you have engaged in sports. How did you find the opportunity to have a profession that's about caring for others in a very direct, powerful way?
So I'm the oldest of 5 siblings, and so that surrogate parental role creeps its way in just by being the oldest. And I've had a lot of adults in my life kind of look out for me. So between being the oldest of 5 siblings and appreciating the mentors in my life, when I saw the opportunity to kind of be able to do that on my own, and that it could be a career option. And that I'd be giving back to Boston, the city that I grew up in. It just makes it a really appealing career option. It's and the work is just rewarding, right? And it's, that old expression where if you love what you do, it's not really work. And I feel like that's true.
How about you, Reggie?
Yeah, similarly, as I was growing up and came to BU, I always gravitated towards opportunities to connect with people and to help people. And when I was working within Upward Bound and even doing volunteer work, I had friends who were in the special ed program here at BU Wheelock. and they would say, hey, why don't you just come with us to work with some students, over the weekend. And so, I used to go to McKinley School, which is right by Boston University campus.
Mhm.
Some staff, Ken Elmore, who was here at the time, and other staff from the Wellness Center, and Dean George McKegney, who talked about, the sort of common ground in regards to Howard Thurman's legacy. Yeah, we would just do different volunteer work and group work, and then I just found that it was something that spoke to me, and something that I found easy to, like. A lot of people just don't feel comfortable, speaking to kids, and in ways that I felt comfortable. Um, and then, once I graduated from BU, and I'll never forget this, so I, graduated from BU. My freshman year BU was a big adjustment, but I kept in contact with a lot of the friends I made my freshman year.
Mhm.
And then after graduation, one of the floor mates, a female student, probably middle high income from Connecticut, turned to me and said, I would never have graduated BU without you. You're so helpful. And I didn't really think about. I didn't think I did anything
Yeah.
unique. Just try and be who I am, and be supportive, and that stuck with me. That
Mhm.
this is something that I enjoy doing, and it came natural to me. So that's how, sort of being in a space to help others and care.
Mhm.
Is something that I learned from folks who were also my mentors, including Mike, and things that really just have become natural to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear, and it'd be interesting. Haven't, I haven't kind of investigated this in a systematic way, but I do hear from a lot of men in helping professions that they felt they were well cared for, and they, by people who taught them, showed them and taught them that men can care, and it kind of worked for them. And then when the opportunity came, it was their chance to give back. So on a totally different plane, um, you were involved in these large programs that take a lot of time, energy, a lot of system work, a lot of recruitment, as you say, fair, significant financial commitment from the universities, and your time and others. How come we need these programs? What's what do you see in the way K-12 works, or our economy works, or family works, that these programs that are targeted to meeting the needs of particularly identified populations, why do we need them? And is that a natural process, or is there something we're not doing someplace else?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest predictor of whether someone will go on to college or not is their family's income, right? So, like, you can look at a lot of, and a lot of that is dictated by where people live. I mean, when you think about programs like Upward Bound, which have been around as part of President Johnson's war on poverty, right? So 1965,
Yep.
the Menino Scholarship, which Boston University established in 1973 as the Boston High Schools program, is about to celebrate its 50th anniversary. And it is part of the university's commitment to the city of Boston, right? So, yeah, it's complicated. I think large income inequalities still exist in this country. I think that precipitates a need for these programs. I think that there are racial disparities that are exacerbating this as well. And so, and I don't think it's all in the schools, right? Hardin, you and I have talked about this, and I think one of your visions is that holistic is not just the school's responsibility, but like, what role do businesses play? What role do other sectors of the society play? And I think one of the things we learned during the pandemic was too much was put on the schools, right? They became how kids got breakfast and lunch, how they get services that would be, as the gatekeeper first, not gatekeeper, but the facilitator for how students could get and families could get services outside of school. And I think that's too much of a burden on any system. And then I think institutions of higher education, the business sector, we've got to provide that wraparound support to schools to make sure that all of our children are thriving.
So Mike, you say we have to, we got to. How come? What drives you to believe that somehow this broad community of privilege have a commitment to make this happen? Well, what drives that in your, what draws that out of you?
I think because to be a just, fair society, we've got to love other people's children. And if we aren't doing that, then we're not setting up the best possible future that we could have, not just for other people's children, but for our own children. And so I am deeply believe that is a societal obligation. And that's not just the responsibility of the schools. It's not just the responsibility of children's parents or caretakers. It is a societal responsibility that I think, and despite all of Jefferson's faults, and I just saw Hamilton with my family last weekend.
And he has lots of them.
Yeah, he did believe that education was a foundational idea. He agreed to have a just, flourishing democracy.
How about you, Reggie? What do you think? I mean, is this is the work you do a natural outcome of what my social critical kids will call a capitalist society that is about competition and not caring for everyone? Or is this how come this work has to be done?
Yeah, I mean, to be true to what the framers of the Constitution say, and to really give those who don't have the opportunity to pursue happiness, as an inalienable right. The education is a part of that, and so we know that historically, because a lot of folks were left out of educational opportunities. So the work that is being done through Upward Bound and through scholarship and fellowship programs throughout the Office of College Access and Student Success is to try and level the playing field. It's really meeting a societal need to make sure that all folks have the opportunity to go to college and be successful in college, and they go on to professions where folks we're lacking in the breadth of diversity of many fields, and so I'm glad that Mike brought up Hamilton, because too many times, for those who've seen Hamilton, the right folks are not in the room when it happens. And so to be able to be part of programming that helps ensure that more folks are qualified to be in those rooms is important. And a lot of people are like, okay, well, folks, after high school, they can go make money doing this or make money doing that. And at a certain extent, money is important. But when you talk about changing someone's trajectory, social networks are important, right? And then opportunities to be decision makers are important. And so if we're just funneling folks who are Black and brown and not have the income means to different professions where they can't make decisions for our future, that's not really what the United States is supposed to be about.
So I want to, the conversations I have with as across groups that are trying to grapple with these issues. Some people will argue that, well, it's something in the individual that matters, and it really just have to create conditions which the individual can succeed. Your programs aren't, you're working with individuals, but you do a lot of community building, right? And you talked about earlier a sense of your own sense of belonging. So when you hear people say, well, if the individual really wants it, they can get it, they'll be successful. And if they don't really want it, then the outcomes that they're having, they kind of bought into. How do you respond to that from what's your perspective? How would you encourage me when I'm on those arguments to respond?
Yeah, I mean, with the symposium that we're at today, Michael Collins from Jobs for the Future talked a lot about the labor market and job opportunities. And one of the things he said that resonated with me was that so many jobs are filled by personal referrals, right? And so as a society, we have to appreciate the students that don't have the social capital to have an uncle or a parent or a friend, a parent of a friend that can make that referral to a job that maybe didn't even get posted, right? And it's that network that a lot of students just don't have access to. And so I think programs like ours help foster that network. I think about the Posse program, for example, right? It's a well-established national model. Deborah Beal is a MacArthur winner as a result of it. And I think it's that power of the network and the social capital that students can get access to through these programs.
So Reggie, why should a higher education institution like BU and BC has it, Harvard, Leslie's doing this. A lot of people are doing this work, as you say, over bounds. A national program been around for decades. Why should higher ed organizations make these investments? So we're going to get a new president and a provost at BU, and this changeover. When that person comes in, what do you want to tell them that this is an investment that's central to the mission, not just a nice public add-on?
Well, I mean, I think in higher ed, often, folks talk about, pipeline issues. And, we're not able to get students who are underrepresented in certain fields because, whether it's STEM fields or, whatever fields, basically every field, because, we can't attract them. We don't know where they are, and so higher ed, if it's to really be able to have students be a part of the fabric of their institutions, who are from underrepresented groups, they have to be in the game of making sure that students are prepared for higher education, and that those who take up the space of their universities, right? And so for BU, that's Boston and a little bit of Brookline and Austin, are we're good stewards of the spaces too, and we're providing the community with opportunities within the university. So when I grew up in New York, Brooklyn College was a stone's throw from where I grew up, and I was introduced to my first a lot of musical performances, a lot of plays, a lot of opportunities, playing on Brooklyn College's field because it was so close, and they had an open door policy. So I didn't grow up with Upward Bound, and so without having the college so close, I would not really be comfortable being on a college campus. But I had that opportunity growing up. There are students who do not have that opportunity, and even though BU, Northeastern, some of the schools you mentioned are a stone's throw from their house, it's not always an opportunity for them to be on campus and take advantage of the facilities. So I really think it behooves the institutions to be a part of this. I mean, luckily BU is very supportive, And that's something that, I think makes sense if colleges are really, want to make a difference in their student body, their faculty, and their staff.
But you're, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but let me try, right? Um, I hear you say that if a higher ed institution is committed to creating, preparing, maintaining a civil society with equal opportunity, it should be making affirmative actions, extra efforts to create opportunities and access, starting in kindergarten, not just waiting until the kids show up at 17, 18. They have to be actively involved in creating, and they may not come to BU, but they're preparing. That's part of a community. And then the other thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, then also it's our ability to recruit people like you into these caring professions by giving you these opportunities to mentor and work with people while you're in that formative stage of college. Are those fair statements for me to make?
Absolutely. And it's really, folks like me who, once you're in these positions, even as an undergrad, you know, then, like Mike said, it's really me who's benefited
Mhm.
immensely from being a
Mhm.
part of this.
Mhm.
And my own professional development, and my perspective of the world,
Mhm.
and folks who have been staff with Upward Bound, and who've been mentors to Menino scholars and such. They've said the same things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's another set of questions about how you work across institutions, how you keep all these partnerships going, that I want to come back to in your second interview. I'm going to come back to you. This is not the one and only. But before I let you go, I want to start. I don't know if you're an Ezra Klein podcast fan. Do you listen to Ezra Klein? I'm a little bit of an addict. And he asked the question, what are the 3 books you've read? Well, I want to be broad in that. I don't want to be a complete copycat. What are the 3 podcasts, plays, books, movies that you would recommend that people are interested in creating organizations that provide access and opportunities to care, that you think they should read or listen to or experience?
Um,
Besides Hamilton.
yeah, no. I think, and there's been classes at Harvard and Boston University about this show. I'm a huge fan of HBO's The Wire, and I think it does a good job of exposing some of the inequities. In season 4 in particular, which looks at the schools, and how so much of the struggle of the 5 boys that are in that season weren't just in school, but were in other segments of society, and how it's not just a school problem, it's a societal problem. I'm a huge fan of NPR, and so it's not really a podcast, but I think I actually listen quite frequently to Kai Ryssdal from the 6 to 6:30 about the economy, because I think that plays a lot of, it influences what's going to impact families, and what impacts families impacts students, right? And so having an appreciation for the economics of the country and then the local economics that goes into that, I think as citizens, if we talk about economic mobility, we've got to understand the economic system. And so then I'm just a news junkie in general. And so so I'm a big newspaper consumer, evening news. And so when I read, that tends to be my default. I'm kind of a news, current events junkie.
Great. Thanks. How about you, Reggie?
Yeah, I mean, I think one, it's The Privileged Poor, is something that, by Dr. Anthony Jack, is really for those who want to get a sense of once you go to college, what are some of the systems that are set up that are not supportive of underrepresented groups.
Hmm.
And so, so that's, I'm always, whenever I have a chance to pick it up, hear from Dr. Jack, there's something new that I'm learning related to, the differences in terms of how people are experiencing college
Yep.
and what programs should exist in the pre-college college level to
Mhm.
be able to support students so that they feel more belonging, while they're in college.
Mhm.
And then, I'm gonna go old school, and you know, there's programming. So A Different World was, a TV show, with folks who were experiencing how it was to be go to historically Black college, and show in the late '80s, early '90s, and Kadeem Hardison and Debbie Allen produced a lot of the shows too. And so it really gives you a window. And for me, it was the first time to see like people who look like me who were in college,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then so when you look at a show like that, it really gives you a sense of, okay, what are some of the things that students who are Black uh, think about what their experiences in college should look like, should be like, um, and it gives you a window of some of the things that are important to those who go to college. One of the things that, as institutions, we all need to do better at is, we're very excited about trying to attract people of color, Pell eligible students into our
Yep.
institutions before we have all the systems in place to help them
Mhm.
feel welcome,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I want to bring up some previous pop culture, into that as well.
Okay, thanks. Actually, you'd appreciate there was a recent in the conversation a little bit about this faculty member at Amherst College who's for 20 years or more has been interviewing Black and white students about their experience, and 3 interviews over a year, over 10 years post college too. So it's keeping up and the different experiences, particularly at a college that over that time has become 50% diverse from as my father would call it, a school for white boys with white shoes to a co-ed, multiple cultures and backgrounds, diverse school. So it's an interesting story about the challenges and speaks to the value to all students of a diverse setting, and also the particular demands on students of color in those settings and the kind of bicultural qualities they have to develop. So it's an interesting, a quick read. I'll email to you. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and love what you do, appreciate what you do, and I know that we at BU and are blessed to have you, and the world's better for the work you do for all our children. So thank you very much. You have a great day.
Thanks, Hardin. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.